Did you start? Did you get record? Good.
I did.
Got it.
Yeah, I think it's going to record it to my desktop so I can put it out here.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Normally, like if I pick the
So-
other one, I think it goes to your account since we're using your
Colorado
account for
one,
this
I got-
month. So,
No, let it go to yours.
okay.
All right. We're doing a little bit of experiment on a couple of things here. So experiments are good. We'll learn and we'll get better every time. So Anoop, you can start sharing, but I want to go ahead and introduce you. Well, those of you that were here earlier, we're talking a little bit about Anoop, and I'll give you a quick thing about Anoop. First of all, I've known Anoop for quite a few times, and everything I'm going to talk about Anoop is really understated. He's the president emeritus of PMI San Francisco Bay Area Chapter and Silicon Valley Chapter. He's the founder of Silicon Valley Agile Trends Leadership Meetup, which I borrowed the last few things to create a meetup here for Central Arkansas. He's had leadership positions, technical, operational, and strategy positions with Visa, Broadcom, and various startups. He's a notable keynote speaker, has done that quite a few times, had the pleasure of seeing that. And I think most importantly, he's been a mentor to multiple project managers, program managers, and portfolio practitioners throughout. And with that, take it away, Anu.
All right. Good morning and good afternoon if you are in the East Coast. And thank you for the kind words, Bill. Thank everyone at your board as well to invite me to this event. I'm super excited, and I can see that the whole network on LinkedIn as well is super excited about this event. I've tried to keep the slides as short as possible. Those slides will be shared afterwards as a PDF, so you don't have to write down anything if you don't have to from the slides. Of course, take your copious notes so that you can use them in your life or as well as at work. So with that, if you can, Bill, if you can give me the sharing rights, I will start the presentation.
All right, give me a second here.
Okay.
Okay, you got it?
All right. Not yet.
Derek, can you do that?
I'm looking for it real quick. Yes, okay. And it's, of course, it's being recorded.
I just
so
got
I'm
it.
gonna let you-
Hold on.
Whoever is recording has a way to do it.
Yeah. I just don't use Zoom as much as I use Teams anymore, so it takes me a minute to find it. Did you find it, Bill, you said?
Yeah, because I used a lot of things.
If you go to the bottom center, you see a green button called share screen, and there is an arrow there. If you click on that, you will see the option.
Mhm.
There's a drop down or drop up button. Oh, there you go. I have it.
Good.
Whoever has done that. Thank you so much. All right. Hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Yes, thank you.
I'm going to share my screen. What do you guys see? Do you guys see a nice first page of the presentation?
Yeah.
Yes.
We can see it.
All right, super. Okay, so a lot of alphabet soup there, and don't have to worry about it. Just a little bit of background about me so that you understand where I'm coming from, what kind of jokes I'm going to crack, what kind of experience I'm going to share. So I started my career as a power lines substation design engineer. So what you see here is directly a picture of me not just designing the substations here from the power grid, but also be on site. So this is where I started my career, being in Germany. This is the port of Hamburg. So I've done a lot of customization there. This is where my software program management career started, back in like 98. Some of the things that I've contributed on is if you ever try to configure your BMW or Cisco phones, there's some code that I've written there. Electrolux, one of the big companies in Europe. So I've actually lived in Sweden, Germany, where I worked there. This is somewhere between LA and San Diego, a nuclear power plant. So I've worked at Southern California Edison for program management as well as for development. Worked with some of the other startups. Also worked at Yahoo. This was a great moment of learning, and I really learned how a learning organization operates and what it does. So some of the components I've actually used from my experience from this organization. And again, think about Yahoo's best days. There was nothing called FANG, MENG, if you have heard all of these terms where, Facebook, Google, Netflix, all of that was all together at Yahoo. So this was one of the biggest buzzing machine, the first internet company, I would say. So some of the small contributions that I have with PMI is that I've led, as Bill said, PMI Silicon Valley chapter as a president, being at the board for 4 or 5 years at Silicon Valley, and then moved on to San Francisco because I was told that the audience are different, the boards operate differently. So I wanted to see how that works, and then started presenting my PMI ACP courses to quite a few chapters in the Bay Area. Got an opportunity to work at UC Berkeley Extension as a faculty, again, just as a passion on the side, along with my day job. So just being some keynotes as well. So today's topic is near and dear to my heart because it goes prior to bringing agility to your organization. We keep on hearing a lot about agile, lean, and how can that make our business go really well. But the fundamental of getting your organization to be agile or lean is that you gotta learn how the business can survive, how to sustain it, how to keep on thinking and get bright ideas about your business to progress, to kill or eliminate the competition, not get complacent about the work that you do at your organization. Right, so this is where it's literally a less than a minute video. I want to make sure that we start off with this particular video. I'm going to quickly see if I can share this and also make sure that one more time. Good. Okay, one more time. There you go. All right, so let's see if hopefully you'll be able to hear.
Today's leading companies are already obsolete. They won't know until it's too late. In 10 years, 40% of the Fortune 500 was replaced. Irrelevance is only accelerating. It's digital Darwinism out here. Ignorance is bliss until it's not. Technology, social, mobile, real time, it's changing the world. Customers are evolving into something new. They're more connected, empowered, and it all comes down to you. Can you answer the question everyone is asking? WTF? What is the future of business? Best-selling author Brian Solis gives you the answer now.
Just a quick one there so that you know WTF is what's in future, not what you're thinking right now. So why I started with that concept is because if you have been in the industry for, like me, for many, many years, you would have seen absolutely lots of companies starting, dying, going up there, coming down, crashing, or a small little company like Tesla, starting to butt heads with really huge companies that have been existing for 50, 80, 100 years, and competing to a level where the companies that have been super established for many, many years had to really think about their existence. And how did that happen, right? It happened because there was a need, an inherent need in the audience, the customers, the potential customers. Did the people have money to buy cars? Literally, like I would say 15 years ago, for 50, 60, 80, 100 grand? Very few people. From there, Tesla started. Tesla started with $100,000 worth cars, and they started selling. So it's like, it was a big question for really large brands like Bentley, Maserati. It was like, what's going on here, right? It's like, we were not getting that market. We always thought that it's only a fraction of the entire population that can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on their car. But look at this. This literally, Tesla started a wave of selling $75,000 to $100,000 cars to middle-class families. How did that start? It actually started with getting to understand how and what customers need for future, right? So if you want to get there as a business, as a startup, as a huge organization, we all cannot be complacent. We have to make sure that we are asking the right questions. Now, the traditional questions, as project managers, program managers, scrum masters, whatever, or product managers, we all have asked 5 whys, like, why did that happen? What do we need for future? Who do we need it for? How should we make it happen? When's the right time? All of these questions, but it's quite evident that some companies are able to crack it and some companies don't. Is it that these companies are not asking the questions? They are, but maybe they're asking very traditionally. And when you ask these questions, what you really hear is what is existing today. You're not getting a tab into or a perspective into the customers that are not saying what they are looking for, because they don't know what they're looking for. Like Steve Jobs said, customer doesn't know what they need, right? He was the first one to say that, because prior to that, it's like, ask the customer what they need and supply them with what they need. And that was the market, right? That was a typical marketing sales mantra of, asking our customers what they need and providing them exactly that. But that's not enough today. That's where Peter Senge, a great well-known author, came up with the concept of learning organization. And he has a book on this, a very famous book. So if you haven't heard of that, go take a look, go to Amazon and just say Peter Senge. The very first book that you see is what is really famous on learning organization. It talks about shared vision, systems thinking, mental model, team learning, and personal mastery. Now, why are these 5 things important? Now, I can go on, and there could be a really huge workshop just on learning organization, but to keep it brief so that I kindle your curiosity to a level that you start reading about it, you start going in deeper into the subjects, one of these subjects or most of these subjects as relevant as possible for your business, for your organization, and for your role. Just to kindle that curiosity, here I've tried to put things in perspective. So shared vision, which means it's not just your vision, your CEOs and your presidents and your board's vision, but it has to be shared. Bigger the shared pool is, bigger is the adoption, bigger is the excitement about it. Like Google came out with, like, working at Yahoo, asked me how Google started the search business. Now, was that the first time somebody thought it's a great idea to start searching through the internet? Actually not. Yahoo has been in that business many years ago. Google came in, they started with this concept. They actually came to Yahoo to sell Google's algorithms for literally $100,000. Okay. And Yahoo, I would say now, it's easier to join the dots in the past. It's not easy to join the dots in the future, like great authors say. Yahoo didn't take that offer because they said, we already have it, right? Building some of those algorithms is not going to be a big deal. I already have that machine. What's the point in buying something redundant? And look where Google is today. They came up with this huge mission to provide access to world's information in one click. That's it. One single sentence, yet so powerful. It got shared across everything that they do. Think about even what they do today, right? They have all these brands that they buy. They bought a lot of brands like cameras, camera companies, to technology that actually boosts the data inside your Google Maps. All of these companies just share that one vision to provide access to world's information in one click, right? It's not just about Google search. If you click on anything Google, you will see that jumping out, screaming at you. And that's the power of shared vision, and see where Google is. Now, I won't say that's the only company. And I think about Apple, completely run in a different way, in a different style, right? Google is almost like everything is open to their employees, whereas Apple is all about creating that excitement all up to the end. Even one employee at Apple would not know what that final product is until Tim Cook stands on that stage and announces it. Completely different way of running the organization, but they still have that shared vision. Second one is systems thinking. Now, there are lots of examples, but the simplest example that might, and again, kindle that curiosity in you is, can you isolate roads, traffic, and traffic lights and improve the ratio of accidental deaths? That's where systems thinking is, right? If you're trying to, fight obesity problem in your little town, would you blame a person and get them on the treadmill every day? Or would you start thinking about what kind of food are they eating? Are there too many McDonald's and other other burger companies out there which is actually making people fat? Or is there about the type of life they are actually living, right? Those kind of thinking, system level thinking is required to learn from them in order to keep that organization learning, right? Why all this is important is because unless we go from the top. If you see, shared vision is right at the top. It's a banner. Systems thinking is what is required inside as people working in for those shared visions. Having those mental models. Now, we all have learned that softwares actually create a great logic. We are moving away from there. Like I'm being into software world, I can totally see that transition of no code or low code kind of big mainstream initiatives going on. What it really means is developers are not writing logics anymore, right? If they were writing logics on Google Maps as an example, it would take hundreds of years to write what we have today. So instead, they don't write logic, they write how human brains work. They insert data of experience, they insert data of empathy in there. That's why, just because of data, that there's a lot of traffic on the freeway that you're going to hit in next 10 minutes, you can avoid that and take a surface street instead, right? It's not logic. It's the data that creates that algorithm to maneuver through the complexities. And that's exactly how human brains think. And we will go into a few more examples on that particular front. Team learning, interactions with users, behavior patterns, data analytics, which means that, mocking a customer of what they might need is the worst way of writing or creating a product. What I really mean is, when you want to know what your customer needs are, ask the customer. Don't assume the customer needs might be ... and don't try to fill in that gap. As an example, when I was at Yahoo, we went away from creating products with user groups. We called it user groups, which means our product managers would use a hat of a grocery company and say, what will they need in order to get their business to be searched on Yahoo? Didn't work. What do they need in order to buy the roses on Mother's Day? And if the product managers are thinking about that, they're gonna think about it in a completely wrong way, rather than you going on the street and start asking. I remember I literally got 5 people from Home Depot, and these people were right outside Home Depot looking for work. You know what kind of people I'm trying to hint at. That's where we literally got them in the office and we said, hey, across this room, a lot of people are watching you. You can't see them, but they can see you. We want to see how you interact with the system. And we said, here's Yahoo search. Go search for yellow flowers that you want to buy for your mother who doesn't live with you. Okay, how would you buy them? How would you deliver them? Can you search right here? We already had that mechanism. We were seeing how big is the struggle for that person to navigate through the system that we built to boil down to the flowers that he wanted. Look at the price. Not talk about the price to us, but when the eyes were hovering around that, like, whoa, $35, can I find something around $24? That person was trying to see, right? And was not talking because was feeling ashamed that, hey, for mother, I can spend $35. I don't want to say that, but his eyes were good enough for us to see that he is trying to see if there are cheaper options for buying those flowers and so on. So we could see all of those patterns. So interaction with the users, behavior patterns, they're not seen, but you can feel them. That will get your product really to the next level. And the last, but not the least one, is the personal mastery. Why should people work towards that shared vision? Why would they come up with a systems thinking? Why should they write something that will not be a logic, but something robust, which will not die in the next 5 years? The biggest thing, if you remember, what was your best experience? What was the company that you worked for that gave you the best experience as an employee? And you will quickly tell me that the company that actually valued your opinion, the company that actually made use of your skill set, the company is your manager who actually never macromanaged you and trusted you to make a decision, was the best company for you. What you're really looking for is autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Again, Daniel Pink, read that book. You will see that clear. That is why companies actually are working, with team players who actually have those attributes. Why do companies like Meta, Google, Netflix, and so many, Amazon, why so many of these companies have these hackathons for 24 hours, and why best ideas come from those hackathons, not from the work that these employees do for the entire month, but in the 24 hours that they give a free time to these employees and say, you know what, sit on these beanbags in the, in the lawn, sip some beers, eat some cakes, and come up with the brightest idea that we have not thought about. For example, a couple of years ago, Meta came up with this, had a hackathon, and someone said, up until now, for like 7 years, Meta only had a reaction of a thumbs up. We all know, like, we meant a lot when we said thumbs up on that statement, on that picture that someone posted. And this person in 24 hours said, why can't we come up with more reactions to the comments and the pictures, like heart, thumbs down, wow, sad, just by clicking on this and checking on those different reactions. 24 hours of free time gave them autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And that shaped how Meta could think about the future, and why there was a huge boost from that point onwards. Now, I don't want to go into other conflicting topics about Meta, Google, Apple. We have a lot, or Tesla, right? But think about learning, right? Are these companies different from the pack that we have seen in the past? Think about, where is Intel? Where is IBM? Where is Sun Solaris? What are they doing these days? Why are we not talking about these companies, day in, day out? Why are we not having the apps from these companies? But even though we hate some of these apps, we still have them on your phone. You may not agree to it, but check your phone. You still have many of these apps that we keep talking about, like how they are damaging the whole industry and whole next generation. But peep into your own phone, you will see some of those apps right there. So that is one of those topics as well that I'm going to cover really quickly. I'm going to take a quick pause and see if there are any reactions, any sentence or two that we have in the audience before I hit the subtopics from this particular bigger, larger topic. All right. Let's move on to the next one. How do we naturally learn as a baby? Now, since we are talking about our learning, let's go back to super basics on how do we naturally learn as a baby. If you see how we learned, we all were watching our mother. Then we started watching whoever was closer to us. We started mocking them. And that's why we still laugh, smile, have some of the habits of, doing exactly how our parents used to do or still do, our brothers and sisters do, or sometimes even how our neighbors do, right? You will be surprised when you go back to the same neighbors, you will realize that, interesting that I still like that great dish that I used to eat with my neighbors, and I still make them exactly how they were making those days, right? So we learn from our environment, we learn from the people nearby, and what do we do then, right? When we learn, what are those steps that we actually take? That's exactly what is OODA loop. Now, Colonel John Boyd, he is from the military Air Force, came up with this concept in 1960s to combat the enemies, come up with different skill set that U.S. military thought are going to be difficult to hone into and learn from, because they were quite foreign to American military. And that's where he said, this is super simple if you look at it, but because now it's codified by Colonel John Boyd in 1960s, it feels to be pretty simple. Observe, orient, decide, and act. Now, it feels like, why? What's the big deal, right? But it is a big deal. Think about how many things, how many skills do you think, you don't have to answer this to anybody, but go do a retrospective with yourself. How many skills do you think you don't have today? Right? If you are a product manager, you might be thinking, I'm not a structured thinker as great as this program manager that I have. I will never be able to do this. I am not a great developer because I can do a quality engineering really well, but I don't have the skills to write code on Python. Well, I don't know how to create a really appealing box for the next generation cereal that your company might be thinking about, or some chemical or some environmental engineering that your company is thinking about. And you think that's not my core skill set. It's going to be very hard for me to learn what it really means. Think about your day 1 or day 10 or day 30 at your new company. The very first thing that you thought about is like, well, I don't know what is this? What are these discussions? I know nothing about it. I'll give you my example. When I joined one of the biggest healthcare companies in the US, or probably in the world, called Stryker. I was a senior director there for a product that was about communication between the nurses and the clinicians. And our product managers were literally former nurses, and some of them were doctors. And the kind of language they were talking about, even though this was a hardware piece, literally, I'm going to show this piece. Like, this is the piece that I'm talking about, which sits right here on their chest. so that with a single button, the communications can start between the nurses and the doctors, but I could still get nothing in the first month of what they're talking about, because they were talking about, so what are clinicians thinking? What are the medical records that we have? Can we come up with some smart ideas around that? And all that doctors and nurses language was like, I don't think I understand this, because I come from a software, hardware, substations world. I have no idea how doctors speak, right? But in 30 days, when I started using this OODA loop concept of observe, orient, decide, and then act. In 30 days, I started understanding how they speak, what is the difference between what they talk and the product that we are creating. What are those bridges, creating that lingo. I started orienting myself, one day I decided to start speaking and have those one-on-ones with these doctors and nurses as our product managers, and started acting on the big backlog that we have, right? So it took me 30 days, 60 days to get to that point, but nothing is impossible for you to learn if you have this very simple codified format of nothing is impossible. I can do it. I just need to start observing. Okay, so a very powerful concept. If you have a notepad in front of you, write down OODA loop. There are a lot of videos and a lot of material. And with ChatGPT, you can even get a lot of information. By the way, I'll cover a point on ChatGPT as well in this presentation. So now let's go into OODA loop. So now, if you go into those why, what's, when, all those questions, those are nothing but action questions. Action questions that are important, but they are not sufficient. So do you see that? You see that, like, what's an urgent, what's an important, what's not so urgent, and what's important and urgent, right? So in the same way, think about, what do you do first? Observe. Now, what do you observe? I'm a very practical person. So if someone says observe, I still have these questions on, what do you mean observe? What am I doing again, right? Even though my brain can process it, but if I put a structure about observing, look at the competitive environment, look at the influences, direct, indirect, internal observation that we all have as a subconscious, strengths, weaknesses, previous experiences, that will shape up your observance. And that's why what you observe is completely different from someone else. And there could be a Venn diagram where there's a common understanding, but anything you see, your observation points would be different from others. And that's the beauty, right? So now, and that's the beauty of being a human being, actually, right? So look at orientation, right? How do you orient yourself? Look at what we want to build, where we want to go, what is our shared mission, shared vision, right? What is the overall strategy? What is the organization's structure? Can we compete in that new space that you observed, right? What is the culture? Is the culture save yourself from the fear of failure, or it's encouraged to take a risk and say something in a big meeting, create a concept, try to do A/B experimentation to figure out what can work, right? So figure that out. Find out what the resources are. And when I say resources, as an agilist, I have a completely different set of resources and people in my mind. People are not resources. Well, some of that time that they're going to spend could be resources, but people are not resources, right? Resources are rivers and mountains, and in software world, the GitHub and collaboration tools and servers, those are resources. If you are in a factory, the running factory, all these belts are resources, and the time that's available are resources, but nothing else. What's the new information from where you are to where you want to go? What is the delta? That's where the orientation is. Can we take a leap to that next world? And then going to decide what are the pros and cons. Don't start with pros and cons. The human brain is wired in such a way that when we start seeing something, as an example, when you are hearing and looking at me and looking at my presentation, the very first thing that you start doing is judging, right? Judging in what you see around me, judging it what you see in me. What am I talking? You see the slides and you start judging whether this is a good slide, whether this guy is talking good. Is he relevant? Is he relevant for me? You're going into yes and no's. I like it. I don't like it. I dislike it. I hate it. All those judgments, drop them until you do your observation, you do your orientation, then you go decide. That's the time to be very, very upfront about what the pros and cons are. Give yourself time to reach there. Don't disqualify just up front, because if you start disqualifying the new concepts up front, what will remain is the concept you already have at present. You'll never be able to get to that next level if you don't give a room to new ideas. Don't judge them when the new ideas come in. You'll go into all of these acts to get to that. And when you decide what the pros and cons are, everything will have pros and cons. There's nothing called only cons or only pros, right? So the human brain gets into this dilemma, but it's beautiful because it understands whether they can deal with the cons and whether the pros are not enough. What are those things, right? It's not the machine that can decide. Ultimately, a human brain has to decide. Now, with ChatGPT, with the advent of generative AI, with a lot of machine learning and everything going around that, we will get to a point where decision points will be thrown at the human beings. Human beings will still need to take a decision, right? Decision points can be provided by the machines. And that's where we want to keep it, because if we go beyond that, we're going to be completely going into anarchy, because we don't know what we are doing. What decision are we making? That's not how we can be successful. Now, when we go from a decision point to how should we do it? And that's why we start talking about who is it for, what is it for, when, where, how, why. Your strategy, your tactics are going to get built through ACT. So previous to this conversation, maybe you were too hard on yourself to go ACT. You were too hard on yourself on this left-hand side, but you were not giving enough to your right-hand side. So start using your right brain as well as left brain, with the right approach, so that you can start using this OODA loop in the right way. Okay. Now, going into subtopics, just like Steve Jobs said, as I said earlier, sometimes customers don't know what they need. What they're saying is not what they mean. What they are saying is from what they see at present. They don't know the future state. If I go back to Steve Jobs, invention, if I may call it, to come up with this smartphone, even though if you are from that era, I'm dating myself here, if you have used the BlackBerry phones, I used to love them. I used to love that, hey, I go from flip phone to these BlackBerry phones with hundreds of keys in there, but I was totally pro. I could do it. And I actually hated when the new iPhones came in, because they had no way for my fingers to understand where is that button Q, where is that button O, where is that number 5 without looking at them because they were clear screens. Now think about Steve Jobs and his team come to you and say, so what do you want on this next iPhone? What do you want on your next Samsung phone? You can tell them only what you see today. You cannot talk about what do you want 5 years from now. So don't listen to users, sample their experiences, see what their pain points are, and come up with your own theory of what they really need and start testing it out. Don't go 2 years into that journey and say, ta-da, let me try that out. I've already spent $2 million and now try to get that into the hands of the end user. You will miserably fail. Instead, go in smaller leaps, go literally 2 weeks and try to go put that into the hands of the end user and ask them to feel it, touch it, provide you that feedback, good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter. And that's exactly where Eric Ries's book is, The Lean Startup. So if you haven't read that, you should absolutely read that, because it is not about only software business. It is about how to think, how to come up with a product, how to wet your ideas and go in front of the customers and kill your competition, because you're always up there asking feedback to your customers. Because again, go back to this, students were asked as a simple and funny example, students were asked if they cheat writing exams. They asked that question to kindergartners, first grader through 7th graders. They also asked this same question to college grads, and everyone said, no, never. And we know from our experience, we know from these pictures that is so funny, because we have seen many people cheat in their exam by different ways. They do, right? But when you ask this question, they unanimously say, no, we never cheated. We will never cheat. The answer is no, because they know that's the right answer, right? I'm not saying come up with a product on this, never ever. I'm trying to give you what you ask is what you get, because there's always that filter human beings have to say what they want to say, to look good, not that they are saying it from the bottom of their heart or from their experience. So you have to get to that layer where they are not saying it, they're not yet even feeling it, but you can get it from their experience, right? And that's the hard game that we all need to play. This is from the Google I/O 2014. So think about companies that are really learning-oriented organizations. In Google I/O, huge conference, about 15,000 people attending this conference year over year. This was one of the topics. Sorry, is that a question? Go ahead. Okay, probably if you are not asking a question, you might want to mute yourself. If you're asking a question, stop me by all means, by the way.
No, I think it's just a person joining that was trying to mute, so you're good.
No problem. No problems. All right, so I'll get going. I'll keep going from these concepts. We'll definitely stop for about 5 to 10 minutes towards the end if there are no questions. But stop me whenever anyone have an urge to ask questions. Okay. So in Google I/O, here's what came out, and it was quite funny, and it's still funny. From 2014 to 1 year to 2024, we're still struggling with these startup ideas. Now, if you go to lots of lean startup ideas that people have, first of all, ask anyone in your network, be it your mom, your relatives, your friends, your families, your chapter members, go out there, ask that question. Do you have any startup ideas? You'll almost always get an answer, yes. You ask them, so what are you doing about it? And they'll say, may not be the best idea yet. So when I get the best idea, I will go and form this great company and I will be super rich, right? Most of the people will give you this answer. But ask this question to all these companies that started in a garage setting and became really huge companies. Netflix, how did it start? We all know. Many of us used to go to these video libraries, and exchange our CDs and all that. And before that, of course, we had these VHS tapes. Netflix came up with this idea of, videos. They started right here, in the Bay Area where I live, in my backyard, coming up with this idea. They also started with CDs and a free exchange. They stopped charging the postal fees to the customers, and then they completely eliminated that and went online for it. Think about Google, how they started. Think about about Facebook. Facebook was not the very first idea. We already had, ideas around, media that we were all getting together at, but they never became that famous. So you don't have to have the best idea possible, but getting into startups of whatever your idea is, learning from that idea, stopping which is not working to pivoting on something that starts working, starting to get the traction from your real users will make your idea, your startup really good. The problem with startup ideas, and this has not changed since 2014, is most of the people will say, oh, I have this personal pain, and so this is my startup idea. It's 86% in 2014. I don't know today's numbers, but I would be surprised if this number has changed. Those are the companies that have the highest chance of failing because they still categorize that as a personal pain. They haven't evaluated whether any customer is looking for it, anybody in their network looking for it, and whether they will give them money, right? Not as a super great idea, my friend, keep doing what you're doing, right? Like, no. Would you pay even $1 every month for this idea? And if they say, let me think about it, you're not on the right path. Start thinking about, start hitting more and more people to find out. Don't just go to 5 people, and if they say no, stop it. No, go to a bigger set of your friends or idea, idea consumers, to see whether they will pay $1 for your idea month over month. And if so, you can go ahead and then start weighing in what can work for them. Spinoff is another 7%, which means, oh, this group was working at Google or whatever, Intel, and they had this idea, and this huge company said, no go for that, and we are frustrated. So we came up with, out of that, we know what this market segment looks like, and so we're going to spin it off and see whether that works or not. Those are only 7%. Okay. Client requests, which means that the customer is looking for something and your current company is not able to or incapable of providing that kind of features, and you decide to go yourself and create that feature. Those are just 3% of the companies. Now look at market research. Only 2%. User research, only 2%. Wow, interesting. And the whole real market is here. That's why I totally believe when someone says, hey, only 4% of the new ideas survive, it's evident right here from this Google I/O conference. What are these 4%, right? Because, you know, spin-off, personal pain, client request. Yeah, it's just client request. One client asks for it, and you're trying to build the whole company, assuming that the whole segment of that will look for that solution. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe you are right, because there could be market research and then it fails. So could be a 1% of these client request companies go into the 4% of the viable companies that come up. Personal pain, spinoff, I'm not saying all of them fail, but I'm just saying very few will actually get into a success story. So start user researching, start market researching. With the advent of ChatGPT and many other generative UI companies that are starting. Well, I heard back in April, by the way, you know, anyone remembers when ChatGPT started? Maybe start of the year, maybe December. But when did you open your account? Some of us may not have even opened that account because they have been hearing about it, but never thought of opening one. You know, so if not, you should. If you have, start going into, like, invest at least a half hour of your day going in there, figuring out what it can do for you. There's a completely new branch of prompt engineering that has prompted that in this industry, and lots of things going on in that space. So start going in there, start researching as one of the sources. Don't rely only on ChatGPT or Bard or any of these generative AI companies to base your research off of. Again, you want to go hit the real human being to figure out whether your idea will survive or not. Don't over rely on that. So again, from the Google I/O, 150 founder interviews and their responses. Some of them are very funny. Who are your customers? And typical responses were very assumptive, very analytical personas. They never said, hey, a person sitting outside Home Depot, a person who was found in Starbucks with the earmuffs on, right? Someone, skiing with me back in February on these mountains who said this, right? Very few people said that. Do people need your product? When they ask this question, duh, of course they do. What does it even mean, right? This is completely assumptive. It's not like, yes, we asked 500 people. Out of that, 350 people were ready to put in $1 a month. Right? You need to start asking that kind of question. Is your product usable? And the answer was, we have great focus on UX, user experience. If you're not, if this is an acronym for you, we use it ourselves. Like, no, what I'm asking is it usable? Have you asked that question to the customers? Not assuming that you have great user experience and you use it yourself. That means 20,000 or 20 million people will use it as well. Is your product better than the competition? We do things differently. Compare feature set. That's not the answer. That's never will be the answer. Is your product getting better? The answer was, we improve it all the time. So yes. Really? Seriously? Is that the best answer you have? It's questionable then. Do people want your product? We ask our sister. She says yes. We asked our mother. She says yes. Well, that's a good start, I would say. Always ask your sister, mother, brothers, and your friends, but don't stop there. Don't assume that your well-wishers is what the whole world looks like, right? Go out there, be a hustler. Ask this question to many people you meet. Don't take more than half a minute in their life, but ask that question and see whether you really see anything that you want for your company or your concept that you're building. So again, what people asked for and what they really need. So only that super subset, what are people asking for, but what are they really looking for? That is a huge area. And you would be surprised that most of the companies actually are loved by the users that are outside of what they're asking. Because if I'm asking for something and I get it, right? That doesn't get me satisfied. That doesn't keep me enough glued to your product. Give me something that I'm not asking for, but I need. And then I would say, aha, I will keep on using it, right? Some caution about generative AI, ChatGPT. Everyone is excited, including me, but don't stop going out and asking questions to real people, because ChatGPT sometimes, or most of the time, is actually, creating all their nodes and creating all this data from what it is reading from Wikipedia and some of the other sources, but they're not going everywhere curating data. They're not in that business. So you might get a hallucinated response from AI, which is not the real good response. Be aware that ChatGPT actually could spit out old data that is dated like September 2021. With advent of generated AI and how fast the information is moving, 2 days the information is there in the ether, it gets stale, right? That means something new has come out. Think about this data point of literally, and this is a real data point, 200 companies and 200 products are launched using generative AI every week starting April. Think about how many weeks have passed and how much you have to catch up, and how much you have to catch up in future to get the advantage of that. And some of them are using the same free version 3.5, but there's a ChatGPT 4, there's Bard, there are multiple other companies that are coming up with their own models. So there are pros and cons of that. So be aware of that. Images, videos are being made as well. So this is going to be the next wave, like internet. Right? When the internet started, there were people who jumped on it, and some people said, this is new fad, and soon they realize they are laggards in that graph, right? So be aware of its sources. Always look for citations when you check ChatGPT. Say provide citations. So if you say that provide sources, it will be happy to give you those citations. Click on those, figure out whether that's an authenticated source from your own perspective, so that you can use it. And be aware of copyrights and plagiarism. Please, please, please do not start adding content. Don't start adding, adding something to your product just because it can spit out code, it can spit out documentation. There could be copyrights and plagiarism involved. When you're doing, this small little thing as academic or your curiosity, you're okay. But as soon as you start publishing these ideas, these new products, this new code, you will see that there's a problem right there because someone else has actually used it somewhere, right? So I'm going to quickly wrap it up in the next couple of minutes, but here is an agile way of digging into customers. So when I say have interaction with your customers, there is a way. There's a method to madness when it comes to agility. It's a pretty famous way of gathering requirements, not a traditional one, by the way, right? It's called empathy map, right? Empathize with your customers, not just write down what they say and do, but write down what you see they do, what you hear from them, right? What you hear could be more than what they're saying. And that's where there's a translation there, right? Like I said, start of the conversation, I said, we had this person, that person was looking at the sticker price of those flowers, but never saying it because he was ashamed that, hey, someone would pass a judgment that you can't spend $35 on Mother's Day, for your mother on these flowers. Come on, right? He was ashamed, but he was looking to get a deal which could be around $24, right? So did you see that, what they're saying? More than what they were saying, right? You saw that. What is their pains, gains? Go beyond that. What are they feeling, right? Why are they going around, even though there are like 10 yellow flowers that they found in the catalog? Why are they going into the next page and the next page? And why are they frustrated? Because some of the flowers are not sold. Some of the flowers are sold, but they have a delivery fee. Why can't it be all inclusive? Why are you surprising me with like $15 flowers with $24 delivery fee? I'm frustrated about that. Like, okay, so what is the feeling? What is the thinking, right? Write all of that. Empathize with them. Don't pass judgment. That will be a great source for you to go into your journey of creating a new feature, new product. You becoming a great program product manager, or whatever you do in your role. One last thing that I would say in the presentation is Gemba walk, which means do not settle by just talking to people near you. Go where the action is. Okay, that's called Gemba. Gemba means direct location, and this is Japanese, by the way. Genchi Gombutsu, which means Gemba walk. Go where the action is. Okay, go to that location, figure out. So again, farming looks mighty easy when your plow is a pencil and you are 1,000 miles away from the cornfield. It's not that easy, right? We all know that, right? So going back to this, hone into this, think about this. This is not, I can't be more specific within an hour. My job was to just get you started on your journey to learning, getting your organization into learning organization, getting yourself into learning organization mode. We don't have time to go to this, but when I share the presentation, you will have this YouTube video with you. It's another couple minutes, but that's me. Thank you so much. We didn't have time to go through a lot of questions, but here is an opportunity that anyone has on the presentation or anything that you want to ask. I'm all available for next 5 to 10 minutes if the time permits us.
Thank you, Anu. Stuff and practicing what you just spoke about, it automatically elevates you in whatever career, whatever things you do in life. OODA loop, empathy maps, learning organization, Gemba walk. Practice those. Practice, try it, experiment, experience it, it becomes part of you. And no doubt, it elevates your capacity to deliver value. That's just fantastic stuff, and they're really great. Thank you very much for that. Do we have any quick questions in here? I know, Anoop, we can probably keep you all day and get into some details on this. We do have a PDD coming up. Just wanted to throw that out there. But in general, we don't have any other questions. We're going to move on and just hang around. We will have the video on this, and Anoop's kind enough to share the contents of his presentation. So I am going to go ahead and go back to my screen here and move this right along. By the way, I really appreciate you folks staying a little bit longer than we typically do on these meetings. We're going to experiment with having them last a little bit longer as well. So let's go back to, there we go. So I want to very quickly share with you, and you'll see this. Oops, let me back up. Our current board of directors. I won't spend a lot of time because you know us, or you can actually go onto our website on that. I'm Bill Dominguez, the Vice President of Programs. And moving right along, wanted to go ahead and mention that we have a couple of open positions. We are looking for a vice president of marketing and several director positions. And Jackie, if you're available, I'd like for you to speak a little bit about membership. So
Sure.
here you go. Thank you, Jackie.
Well, so I definitely like to share this information every month. So the new members that we have are listed here. And then also some new credentials. So Chica White, Louis Holston, and Harshal Shankar Dul. I hope I pronounced that correctly with their PMP. So congratulations to them. That's awesome. We know that's probably still a very hard exam. We are preparing to do the new member orientation. We try to do that quarterly. I'm just a little bit behind on that because I've been trying to pull the report of new members over the past quarter. So it may be actually 4 months worth of new members, but that should be coming out very soon.
Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, one thing that's really exciting, we're closing in on 400 members. That's really fantastic. Thank you all for being members. We're planning on doing a lot more programs to add more value to you. This is a program that we launched last month, and we're going to have a lean coffee table every month now, which is an opportunity for you to network and to share your experiences and with other members. It's a wide open space. It's a safe space where anything you want to discuss about projects or programs or your work, specifically project management, all the members oh my gosh, we'll feed you pizza and soft drinks. And you'll get PDUs. We're making it an hour and a half. And more importantly, we have over thousands of hours of knowledge in project management. And we held one last month, and it was really great. So we also limited 16 people, and it sold out in a day. So we're leaving it wide open. I hope 400 people show up. We'll take over the restaurant. And you got an email today speaking with more details on this. So hope to see you there. We have more programs. So we need to have you tell us what else you'd like to see, what else you'd like, because you are a customer. And so there you go. That's that. Suzette, are you there?
So I am.
Oh,
Yes.
perfect. You want to tell us about your professional development day and what's going on there? Suzette is she's the PM for this terrific opportunity. So with that, it's all yours.
Just a quick announcement. Hope you all are saving the date, Friday, October 13th, for our first in-person professional development day since before the pandemic. And we are working on getting interesting speakers for you. And we will be opening registration fairly soon. So just please keep your eyes open.
Yeah. Thank you, Suzette. Yeah, keep your eyes open. Emails are coming. And while I have all of you here, if you all don't mind turning your cameras on, that would be great for a minute. So you get to see who's here, who they are, see a face of each other. Hey, Jackie. Hello, hello, hello. Very good. Excellent. And you guys got to tell us what you want, what your needs are. Come on, that's my job. Got programs. So we're trying to do our best to go ahead and promote things that are important to you. What do you think of Anu? Come on, tell us. It's all right. Yeah, great stuff. And so anyway, thank you for being here. And we'll see you all soon. And hopefully at the pizza and PDUs. It's great pizza, by the way. All right. Take care, y'all. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you soon.
Thank
Check
you
your
all.